Breaking news, rapper Fetty Wap has been sentenced to 6 years behind bars.
Imagine going from being a one-hit wonder superstar with one of the biggest songs ever to being sentenced to 6 years in prison for trafficking kilos and running a sophisticated coast-to-coast drug ring, a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise to get you sent to prison.
He and several others were accused of driving to Long Island and buying cocaine by the kilogram and then reselling it in both New Jersey and New York in 2020.
Well, this is the reality for trap queen rapper Fetty Wap, or Willie Maxwell II, who went from standing on stage to standing in front of a judge in a federal courthouse, charged with conspiracy in a multi-million-dollar drug trafficking scheme.
Fetty Wap apologized for the pain he caused and said he hopes that in due time the Long Island and New Jersey communities will forgive him for his actions.
So yeah, Jock might be right with this one, or at least close, because this story is insane. It's equipped with all types of crazy twists that you won't see coming, that you usually get when a criminal empire crumbles, but we'll dive into all of that. Fetty Wap being raided, how he got caught, how his bond was revoked for threatening a man's life on camera with a firearm, and the sophisticated scheme that Fetty and his collaborators used to traffic booger sugar through multiple states using hidden compartments and postal services. And yeah, it gets crazy. But first, I am Joe Stone, and this is the Church of Joe Stone podcast, where we find the most shocking and provocative stories in hip-hop and take them to church. Now, behind all the music and money, Fetty Wap has some other shit going on. A clandestine operation was brewing. The one-eyed artist went from living a hip-hop dream to living a real-life crime drama. And this wasn't for pennies, it was for millions of dollars. Allegedly, the illegal substances would be purchased from Long Island and then trafficked everywhere from Suffolk County, New York to New Jersey. And it wasn't just one thing. It was a little cocaine, a little fentanyl, a little heroin, because apparently our guy Fetty Wap loved to diversify. And allegedly, all of this was transported and sold under Fetty Wap's alleged guidance, as in he was the boss. What was even more shocking, though, was the sheer scale of the operation and the complexity of it. He wasn't running no two-bit corner operation. Let's give the guy the props where he deserves them. They had hidden vehicle compartments, postal service routes they were using to ship these illicit substances. And we're talking about trafficking hundreds of kilos of narcotics, which also got seized along with firearms and over $1 million in cash by the police. But what exactly happened? Well, in October 2021, that's when shit took a dive for Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap was arrested and slapped with allegations that portrayed him as a significant player in a widespread bi-coastal drug smuggling operation that involved major weight, hundreds of kilos. Again, Fetty was arrested on his way to Rolling Loud. And during the bust, the police uncovered a staggering $1.5 million in cash, 16 kilos of cocaine, 2 kilograms of heroin, fentanyl pills, firearms, and ammunition. The scale of the operation had the police in disbelief. Prosecutors say that the scheme involving the U.S. Postal Service had the drugs moved from the West Coast all the way to Long Island. Then it would be distributed to dealers on Long Island and in New Jersey. The rapper and his 5 co-defendants were accused of conspiring to possess and distribute more than 222 pounds of heroin, fentanyl, and crack cocaine between June 2019 and June 2020. This whole story and all of these charges and what he did would put Fetty Wap in the crosshairs of a potential life sentence if convicted while trying to defend himself in court. His only real option was to take a plea. But before Fetty would plead, just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, Fetty Wap's situation would take an even darker turn, because while fighting these charges, he would be out on bond. And this wouldn't be a simple mishap. It would derail his trial and paint him as a bad actor at a time where he didn't need that going on. With Fetty Wap being a public figure, he found himself drawn into an online beef with a twist.
The rapper Fetty Wap was arrested in New Jersey for allegedly threatening to kill somebody over FaceTime. The 31-year-old is accused of calling someone on FaceTime back in December, showing a firearm and threatening their life.
The target of this was an unidentified man who apparently insulted Fetty Wap's daughter, who happens to have passed. Which, I mean, if any of us was in this situation, probably would lose it. This aggressive interaction sent shockwaves throughout the legal proceedings and led to Fetty's bail being revoked, pulling him even deeper into this justice system black hole, and now meaning that he would have to spend the rest of the time fighting his case in jail. Now, Fetty's defense tried to argue that he had been entrapped and was provoked by this young man in order to catch Fetty slipping. And while that may or may not have been the case, at the end of the day, despite that, the threat was real, the gun was real, and the charges remained. And yeah, you can't be flashing ARs while you are out on bail. It just doesn't work like that, especially not when they try to get you for drugs and gun charges. But getting back to the story, Fetty Wap's freedom was taken away, and the man that was used to the stage bright lights was now living under the harsh fluorescent glare of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Now, fast forward. Fetty Wap was put into a position where he pretty much had to plead. If he tried to fight the case and lost, and with all the evidence they had against him, he probably was gonna lose, especially with having 5 co-defendants. Somebody probably gonna snitch. So he had to take the plea. So instead of facing, life in prison, he may only be facing 5 years. That was the mandatory minimum. So Fetty Wap pled guilty to his role in a drug trafficking operation, taking responsibility for at least 500 grams of cocaine. This plea, in stark contrast to his initial denial of any wrongdoing, sent a ripple of shock through the courtroom. Now, Fetty Wap's attorney stressed that he did not cooperate with law enforcement. She said this shit multiple times in multiple different ways to make sure that everybody understands that he did not snitch. But of course, people are going to still question that because you were facing life and then you only got 5 years on a plea, and you probably had to give somebody up because if you're going to take a plea, they usually want all the people that you did crime with. But, not saying it happened, just saying. Either way, Fetty Wap was able to manage throughout the situation. At his plea hearing, Fetty Wap took accountability and said that he apologized to the court, saying that he hurt his community, the people who look up to him, his family, and himself. And he also said that he was exactly where he deserved to be. Shout out to the young man taking accountability for his crimes and standing up like a real one. And again, he had to do this so that he would not be going to jail for life. But what happened to Fetty Wap? How did he get here? Where did things go wrong? I think what happened is kind of obvious. Fetty Wap low-key went broke because he was spending so much money and did more spending than he did making money. And then as his fame dwindled, he had a hard time maintaining the lifestyle that he had became accustomed to, and probably the people around him became accustomed to. This, with the pressure of everything else, probably led him to making some decisions that he's not proud of to this day. But unfortunately, he has to pay for them. And this, again, guys, leads me back to what I've been preaching as I bring you story after story of rapper going to jail for murder, drugs, or whatever, is that if you're going to go through all the trouble to get out of the streets, then you might as well go through the trouble of staying out of them. Once you become this famous superstar rapper, there is a target on your back, and if you're going to make it easy for them, they're going to definitely take you down. Again, like I always say, criminal, drug dealer, gangster, and rapper don't go together in real life. You get paid to sell an image. Sell the image, don't sell the drugs, because that's how you go to jail. Famous and crime don't go together. Again, even Donald Trump had to learn that the hard way. But the streets had a lot to say, and we're gonna dive into that as well. Trap Queen makes a whole lot more sense now, facts. I mean, we're not gonna act like Fetty Wap ain't coming to the game screaming, "Hey, come be my trap queen," and in the video have kids cooking up dope. That's look, let's be honest. He gonna be able to play GTA 6 when he get out at least. Okay, that's dope. He hasn't been relevant, but we don't want to see anybody have to do 6 years. That's tough. These rappers make bread from music. Why are they still trapping? My point exactly. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Fetty Wap is getting what he deserves? Do you think that Fetty Wap snitched? Do you think that he stood tall on his sentence? Do you think that he did the right thing as far as taking a plea? Do you think all of this could have been avoided? And how do you feel about all of these rappers getting locked up for these crazy charges as of late? Let me know what you think in the comments. I am Joe Stone. This is the Church of Joe Stone podcast, where cool comes to pray. You come to stay and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another video coming your way, where we find the most shocking and provocative news and take it to church. Bow! I will see you in the next one.